Good. So, in the last week, I tried to define as a first phase of formation of world economic system, a medieval European economy. If you remember, had two poles of world economic system, a southern pole, this was basically Italy, northern and central part of Italy, and the city-states of Italy, and the northern poles, Low Country. Recently, more or less, Belgium and the Netherlands. This was the starting slide in the two lectures before. Come in. Two lectures before, and this distribution of medieval cities show well two poles, even in the 11th century. Southern poles and the northern poles. And very interesting, and I called your attention that even recently, if we are looking at a satellite picture about Europe, these are the most highly lighted area, most urbanized area. For example, somebody traveled in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands has 17 cities which more populated than 100,000 inhabitants, more populated. And half of Hungary, it's no more than 43,000 square kilometer. Therefore, half of Hungary not a great country, but the Netherlands much smaller, only half, and living 15 million recently, 15 million people in the Netherlands. It's very, very high density of population, but a little bit same before 1,000 years before recent time. Okay, you remember this is the southern pole of medieval European economy. Basically, specialized distributor trade. Which kind of distributor trade? A spice. Last week, I told you why so precious a spice. Nutmeg, pepper, ginger, cinnamon, crocus, and any other. It's very fashionable. This is a luxury trade. Value of pepper was the same like value of gold. Same value, equal. And basically, not the local production mobilize the trade, the international long-distance trade, but a distribution. Okay, but it was a even trade, you remember, and this is the most important long-distance trade routes. Red one, the Great Silk Road, and the blue one, the Great Spice Road. Okay, this is the southern pole, and a northern pole, Low Countries, a historical Low Countries. This is the area between boundary of Denmark and the Valley of Paris, much larger than recent Belgium and the Netherlands. It's Low Country. It's a plain area. It's generally a plain area. Which is the peculiarity of this plain area? This was, no problem, industrial area, because natural condition very bad for agrarian production. Therefore, the local population specialized partly industrial activity, textile industry mainly, and partly fishing and international trade, and organized the first inter-regional trade between Baltic area and Low Countries. This was the last slide, which demonstrated how turn benefit from bad condition, bad environmental condition, specialized agrarian activity which high added value. You remember, for example, breeding of tulip, a flower breeding, and making a cheese, a hard cheese, and making a painting grass. Somebody know the name of pastel? Pastel. This is a very special painting. And for example, you paint something with the painting, there is a very special color of pastel. A pastel, a grass, a natural grass. And the painting of pastel made from grass. And the value is very high, much higher compared with, for example, a local estate with wheat and the rye and the barley production. Why? Because necessary, the special and the secret knowledge, it was the industrial spying even in the Middle Ages for solving the problem. How able to breed a pastel from grass? How able to breed a dark tulip? High added value. In the last week I spoke about the concept of added value. It's not a modern concept. It's functioned even in the Middle Ages, in the traditional time. Good. This is the basic surface of trading activity, a Baltic coast, a Baltic area, a timber. I spoke about in the last week why so important the wooden material, why so important the timber, because on the traditional time this was the same like a fossil fuel recently. If somebody, some country, some area monopolized the trade of timber, dominated the global ocean. Why? Because the raw material of shipbuilding, it's a timber. And in the continental Europe, quantity of forest area, it's very moderate. If we would like to understand how the importance making a fleet, making a ships, making a vessels, we can calculate very simply. For one normal vessel, a great commercial vessel, necessary 4 hectare forest. Hewing down. And in Europe, for example, somebody from Spain, it's very tragical, the environmental history of Spain. Why? Because the rock, the basic rock surface in Iberian Peninsula, it's how the name is, a chalk, you know, it is a chalk, like that, it's a chalk. Hewed down large forest area, lost the soil cover, and became a moon land without vegetation, without grass, no usable. The making Iberian or Spanish fleet destroyed the forest, destroyed the environmental condition and the natural environmental condition. But in the Baltic area, huge forest area, moreover, low density of population. Therefore, open for making a global European fleet. And moreover, this kind of the vessel, it's drove by wind. No engine, wind, sailing machinery function in the classical traditional vessels. And the key element of the making of the sailing ship, the mast, the size of the mast, because the size of the mast depends the surface of the sails. It's easy to understand. And the quickest vessel made the countries which monopolized the trade of timber. Why? Because there are compensations somehow. If some country no monopoly for making and commercializing of timber, try to compensate the handicap. How? Constructing a mast from 3 elements, like an Lego, and use some iron cover for taking one to other. But the flexibility and the power of, speed of sailing much lower, because each point it's constructing one to other, it's a weak point in the critical situation. Therefore, the quickest ships constructed the longest mast. And this was a secret. Which area can hewing down the longest mast for the merchant vessels? The second one, a tar. Somebody know which is the tar? It's a special technological industrial term. A tar. A tar. Somebody tried a Finnish sauna. Finnish sauna. Okay. There is a special smell in the traditional Finnish sauna. Came from the tar. Nobody? No. Which is the tar? You can use the smartphone. A tar is a material making waterproof the body of vessel and the roof of building. Insulation. Raw material of insulation. Before modern chemical industry, no other raw material for insulation. And the traditional tar, it's a flexible material covering the body of the ship, made from pine. Pine. It's grinding down the pine, taking some minerals into and boiling the body and transform for flexible on hot temperature flexible material which covering the body of vessels. And before the modern chemical industry at the beginning of 20th century, no other raw material which is able for insulation. Therefore, it's a key material. Without tar, no making of ships because it's diving. Okay? Fur, of course, because this is a north area. Grain, I spoke about the importance of the grain, and honey. We are before the appearance of sugar. Therefore, in Europe, only one sweetening material usable, a honey. Good. This is the structure of the northern trade. A low country, dry goods, soft goods. Dry goods mean some iron materials, spoon, axes, and some devices of agriculture, hoe, and the digging materials, and the salt, and soft good textile products. And Hanseatic League, this is the organization of small cities around the Baltic coastal area. The number of city on the Hanseatic League, it's changed between 100 to 170. Why so important? Because forming a league. Because these cities very small. Population 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Like, therefore, behavior of these cities, like, for example, fishing, a small fishing in the ocean, forming a body, a collective body. In Italy, for Venice, not necessary forming organization and the league. Why? Because population of Venice in the high day, 150,000. More populous than whole of the Hanseatic League. In Italy, no league. City-states separately, independent. But in the Baltic Sea, form an organization, commercial organization. And very interesting, there is one Russian city in the Hanseatic League. Somebody know?
It's on the map. It's on the map, Novgorod. No?
Indicate here.
The most, yes, higher.
Which is the name?
Novgorod.
Novgorod. It's very important. Why? Which is the peculiarity of the Novgorod? Republic. It's an aristocratic republic. Exceptional. Exceptional. Because in the former phase of the Russian historical and political development, two directions. It's a monarchy, like Moscow, and Novgorod a republic. It's very interesting. Which was the solution of this problem? Igor III conquered Novgorod and killed 1/3 of the population. Solved the problem. Okay, turn back. This is the northern pole of European economy. But very interesting, if forming two poles in the medieval European economy, a northern pole, it's contained Low Country and the Baltic areas, and the southern pole necessarily organized somehow between the poles, the communication, necessarily communicate, and found the trader of north and the south one area of communication. This area of communication named fairs. A fair, this is like a market, but much longer, the term of function of this kind of the market, of Champagne and Brie. Probably you know from the cheese and from the beverage the name of Champagne. Champagne, this is the alcoholic drink, you know. And the Brie, it's a soft cheese. This area producer of that. Why so important finding this meeting place? One of the most important peculiarity of this region that the ruler of Champagne and Brie are weak political power. Merchant and the businessman never like the strong political power. Why? Because dangerous for the business. Probably I told to you about the history of China. Chinese sailor reached first southern and central part of Americas. But the emperor decided turn empire to continental orientation. And the political power, in the case of China, Chinese civilization was stronger compared with the economic reason and economic interest. And time by time, between the political power and the economic power, unfolded a rivalry. If political power is stronger, destroy the interest of and push down interest of economic power. But in Europe, no large political integration. Therefore, each critical situation dominated by economic interest. Look at this situation. Ruler of Champagne Brie, a weak ruler. Moreover, on that time, Champagne and Brie, independent area, independent principality. It's part of the French area, but officially independent from French kingdom. And the trader and the merchant and the businessman like this area, like recently the offshore area. It's out of strong political control. Therefore, in the Middle Ages, Champagne and Brie was the contemporary offshore area. Everybody liked. The rate of taxes and the fees is very moderate. Therefore, this was the meeting place. Moreover, very interesting organization of the meeting, because it's not a modern time, it's a traditional time. Somebody participated in a festival, it's a summer festival. It's a music and theater and so. Who participated in festival? Summer festival, music festival, theater festival. I suggest to you, for example, in Hungary, there are a lot of popular festivals. For example, even in Szeged, at the end of August, there is a local festival, and the most famous island, the festival island in Budapest. Because in Budapest it's cutting down two parts, Danube, river Danube. And because in the phase of flooding, it's good. This is the Carpathian Basin, and this is the trajectory of Danube. In this area, this is the Hungary, more or less. And in this area, this is the mountain area, it's cutting down by Danube. And after cutting across to the mountain area, the speed of water, it's slowed down. Which is the reaction in this situation? It's making island. For example, Margit Island, Chapel Island, and one island here in Budapest using for festival. And which is the basic problem with the festival? The people who participate in the festival drink, eat, using the environment, overuse the environment. If somebody visits in the toilet, the mobile toilet, on the 10th day of the festival, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because the smell and the condition is a tragical. And the contemporaries in the 13th century had to solve the problem of the festival. How? Organized fairs which were 2 months long. The first festival, not festival, fair, started in January in a small city, somewhere here. Lagny-sur-Marne, it's a French city. It's a very small city, but large area around the city, constructed different temporary buildings and temporary restaurant, temporary construction for trade, used for 2 months long. And used the mobile toilet and mobile showering machinery and so and so. But destroyed and exhausted the physical environment and moved to Bar-sur-Aube. 20 kilometers, not so far, only 20 kilometers, rode by horses. Started at the beginning of March, the second fair, and at the beginning of May, started the first fair, 20 kilometers other place in Provence. This was the first fair in Provence, exhausted the physical environment. At the end of June moved Troy. This was the Worm fair. It's a show, it's a French term. At the beginning of September, Provence moved back 20 kilometers. Second fair of Provence. And finally, October moved to Troy. This was the Froid, it's a cold fair. Therefore, in 30 kilometers circle, whole of the year, whole of the community of merchants of Europe met with each other like a giant plaza. Shopkeeper with huge number of trader, merchant, broker, and shopkeepers. This was the first great integration of European economy. A meeting place between north and southern pole of Europe. And very interesting and very important innovation proliferated whole of Europe, which were the most important innovation of Champagne of fair. The first one, merchant houses and agent network. Before the great trading revolution of Champagne-Brie, the merchant personally traveled and bought and tried to organize a trade of merchant houses. But in consequence of centralizing of European trade, organized local agencies. And not personally the merchant, the leader, the head of the merchant houses traveled from Amsterdam to Novgorod, but the agents improved and increased the speed of trade because the head of merchant houses may perform and travel only to one place. But agents, reliable agents, moved everywhere in Europe. This was the first one. The second one, appearance of bill of exchange, a paper. Why? Because using coins, gold, silver, or copper ducats, dangerous. Why? Not only the traders specialized for trade, but even the criminals. Therefore, if somebody on the bag bringing with him or herself huge amount of coins, may be a victim of criminals. But it's very easy and very efficient. How the name is? Replace real coins with artificial money. Writing only, for example, value of paper. It's a value of this paper 100 gold ducats. And very important, it's quite a small size of community of trader. Everybody knew each other from the face. Therefore, not necessary, like in the iPhone, face identity checking. Everybody knew each other. Therefore, no chance for the criminals. No chance for the criminals. When some activity starts, it's the circle who participate, it's quite small. Very interesting, quite a famous Hungarian movie director died some years ago. His name is Miklos Jancsó. In one interview told that in the 60s, 20th century, each European movie director knew each other. Because so small community. Like a similar situation in the 13th century, each serious trader knew each other on face. Therefore, no chance for the criminal who, for example, theft paper, but which is the advantage of the bill of exchange? Artificial money. Improve the security of financing operation. First. Secondly, it's possible to overtake the level and the dimension of trade, of real dimension of precious metal. Because this is a problem in Europe continuously, that not enough precious metal. Not enough precious metal. Why? Because Europe, development level of Europe, it's moderate, very low. You remember the rank list of civilization. The first, the best one, China. The second one, India. The third one, Muslim civilization. And Europe, only the fourth. Therefore, if European trader would like to buy something from China, from India, from Muslim world, no industrial production, which interesting by this civilization. Only money, gold coins. Therefore, in Europe, in the Middle Ages, there is a precious metal pump. It's out from Europe to China, to India, to Muslim civilization. Because Europe, this is the community of poor countries. In global view, poor countries, able to pay for silk, for spice, for Asian products, luxury Asian products, only with gold coins, no any other. And necessary to solve the problem how we can organizing European trade without gold coins and silver and copper. And invented, this is the shortage, and the shortage situation in personal life and the life of community, able make and made invention. Because under pressure, the capacity of brain, if somebody a talented person, it's somehow invent something new one. Bill of exchange, artificial money, and quantity of products which circulated whole of European economy tenfold higher than the real money. Therefore, with help of artificial money, European economic life was able to increase the speed and the quantity and the dimension of European economy. Okay. Risk-count or clearing system. Somebody know which is the clearing system or the contemporary name, because on the Middle Ages the international language, lingua franca of the Middle Ages was the Italian, Tuscan dialect. Clearing system mean and solve the problem, the crisis, not enough money. The clearing system, it's much easy to understand if I show one model. For example, there is two traders, A and B. It's not a real Christian name, this is a model. And A trader transport 2 units, not important which products. B for compensation 3 units. Year by year compare the books and necessary pay a real coins or artificial money, only the difference between 1 unit. Therefore, not necessary to use a flowing of money, but only the differences. Therefore, able to avoid a continuous using of real coins, real money. This is the clearing system. Clear one term by term, the differences only. And finally, the commission trade. The commission trade, it's a peripheral area, even though it's a typical form of the trade. Commission trade, for example, used in Poland, in the textile area, southern textile area of Poland, artisan make the textile, and the trader who used and traded with the textile didn't pay on the time taking this kind of products of textile, only after the selling. Therefore, postpone the time of paying. Not necessary using money only after the selling of these products. I hope you understand. You understand? Everybody. I hope so. Okay. This kind of the innovation proliferated in consequence of forming network of European trade, whole of Europe. Increase the dimension, increase the speed of trade, and increase the capacity of European economy. Okay, but to the 14th century, this medieval European economy collapsed. Why? The first reason, climate change. Recently we are living on the time of global warming. But the global warming, not the first time of the climate change, on that time happened a little ice age. Somebody listened about the little ice age? Raising the hand. Okay, it's a greenfield investment. Little ice age means, if we are looking the last 2,000 years of climate history, according to Christian calendar, this is the Christian calendar, it's a simplification. It's this is the estimated date of birth of Jesus Christ. This is the 10th century and this is the 20th century. This is the long-term average of climate change. On the time of Roman Empire, the climate is quite warm. Not by chance, at the beginning of this course I spoke about why conquered a Roman Empire, Britain, why conquered a German area, why conquered Gaul, a recent France, why conquered western part of recent Hungary, its name is Pannonia, because the climate became warmer. Therefore, dimension of Mediterranean agrarian activity, it's increased. Roman Empire and regions of Roman Empire only followed the climate change. Not by chance, when the Vikings sailed to Iceland, sailed to Greenland, sailed to Americas, similarly followed the consequence of warming. Increased the same physical environment which had a practice on the using. Okay, it's a warm period, it's a warm period. But to the 4th century, decreased the temperature, a lot of reason. If somebody interested after today's lecture, I tell to them which are the reason of climate change, but recently too short the time for that. Decreased the temperature on the 4th century, and it was a quite dry and quite rainy period. Different region, the behavior of climate and the environment differ, but dry and rainy period. On the 9th century started a new warming. It's named it's a cold period of migration from 4th to the 9th century. On the 9th century started the medieval warm period. This is the period when the Vikings colonized Iceland, colonized Greenland, and colonized temporarily, at least the northern part of North America. And to the 14th century started the next and the last great cold period. It's named Late Ice Age. And Late Ice Age closed at the beginning, at the turn of 19th and 20th century. This is the rhythm of last 2000 years climate change. Recently we are in the recent global warming. It's a new period. Why? Because a climate change happened and unfolded in the historical past. But recently there is some very new and unprecedented event. A human industrial activity. Because any other climate change we can derive back to natural reason. For example, intensity of solar radiation, volcano activities. For example, it's a warm change on the ocean currents, like Gulf currents and others. But in the modern times, humans became a similar natural power, like for example, cyclone, like for example, earthquake, like natural forces. Therefore, recently we are living in the Anthropocene, age of human. Therefore, no precedent for comparison, a recent global warming, any other warming on the historical past. Therefore, if we are looking at recent global warming, the first period, quite a moderate, with cold period, for example, majority, all of the winters of Second World War, it's very cold. If somebody watched a movie of Enemy on the Gates about the Battle of Stalingrad, it's very cold, very cold. Therefore, in the middle of 20th century, a little bit colder. But from 1988, the speed of warming up very quickly. And if we try to draw a trend line, obviously this is a warming period. Not unprecedented, because former time of historical past had much warmer than recently. For example, in the middle of Holocene, it happened 7,000 years ago. The climate much warmer than recently, because on that time no ice, no glacier whole of Europe, no any glacier. Recently, the situation with the global warming is critical for two reasons. The first one, we can derive back to interaction for natural warming and artificial warming in consequence of industrial pollution, carbon dioxide and methane and any others. This is the first unprecedented situation. Secondly, the speed of warming, Okay, but turn back. Climate deterioration, this is the starting day of late ice age. Late ice age was the coldest period whole of human history. Look at, for example, in Thames, on the River of London, frozen over regularly, and organized winter fairs on the ice cover. It's happened the same in Paris and regularly in Hungary, in Buda. For example, elected one Hungarian king on the river, on the ice cover of Danube. Because it's a free place, not necessarily paying for that, very reliable, stable and everything. It's a very, very cold period. Look at, for example, Tale of Dickens. It's an English author. Which is the picture of the Dickens about England? Harsh winter tale. Look at recently. Which is the temperature? Of winter in England recently? If there is a moderate snowing, it's a headline on the BBC. But on the time of 18th century, 19th century, or 17th century, it's very, very harsh winter. Why dangerous? A climate deterioration. Because, probably you remember, 90% of population, peasant, depend on the quantity of former harvest. Therefore, if climate deteriorated, became cooler, decreased the potential arable land, area of cultivation, and the period of cultivation too. And appear underfeeding, qualitative and quantitative level too. Okay, climate deterioration. Somehow it's unstable background of European agriculture. Agrarian crisis, the first agrarian crisis appeared even in the second decade of the 14th century. It named a green harvest. Why? Because a cultivation period so short, not enough for ripening of cereals, wheat, barley, and the rye. But no time, because approaching the September rains, therefore harvested. But the seeds of barley and the wheat rotted. The people ate, infected the stomach, and died. Okay, overpopulation. I spoke about the problem of overpopulation yet. In the case of overpopulation, appear two problems: underfeeding. Quantitative underfeeding, not enough calorie, and qualitative underfeeding, not enough fine element, vitamin, trace material, and nutrition, the fine element of the feeding. Therefore, appear, even the contemporary thought, a breaking mechanism, because overpopulated the local population, and some natural processes try to slow down the overpopulation. And the classical breaks, war, epidemics, and famines, decrease the population and decrease the pressure of overpopulation. This is some climate diagram about climate changes of the last 1,000 years. It indicates a medieval warm period, a late ice age, and the recent global warming. But why named ice age? Because a mountain area increased the size ice-covered area. Front line of the ice cover, it's down partly, and somebody walked on the surface of a glacier. A glacier, ice river, over a line of snow line, precipitation, it's a snow. And snowing, in consequence of solar radiation, melting, snowing, and transform a snow to ice. In consequence of gravity, it's flowing down very slowly, 10 meters per week, but the gravity is very strong power. For example, there is a medical student in the audience. Medical student, no? It's very interesting because there are a lot of problems with the space discovery. It's a traveling space shuttle on the space. For example, one of the critical problems that the digestion into the body moving by gravity. Meals and the shit. If somebody, no? Partly anyway. If no gravity, for example, on the space shuttle, it slow down our digestion. Therefore, it's not so popular in the space shuttle using a special vacuum from each other, increase the solidarity and the friendship, and somehow necessary to solve the problem. Therefore, the gravity, even the function of the body, it's very important. Okay, turn back the story of the glacier. It's flowing down, ice river, and increase the size. If somebody travel to Switzerland or travel to Austria, there are milestones about the position of the glaciers. Recently, melted down more kilometers from the position of 19th century. Why so important? Because the most important activity in mountain area, animal husbandry, with cattle, cows. And which is the rhythm of animal husbandry? During the winter time, the herd of cattle survive in the valley. There is a stable. And open the vegetation, walking up on the mountain. Open the vegetation, huge grazing land. Probably you know the commercial of Milka chocolate. It's a Swiss cattle walking up on the mountain slope. But very critical problem. Somebody had a personal experiences living together with the cattle. No? How many liters drinking one cattle for one term? 3 times drinking. Not sure, drink water. How many liters? This is a guess. 20? First offer 20. Second one? 21? 20? 25? 30? No. At least 50. Huge quantity. Why? Because huge body, you know which is the size of cattle? Between 700 kilogram to 900 kilogram. A bull is larger one. And day by day, able to produce 30 to 50 liters of milk. Necessary to drink huge quantity because on the body it's transformed. I have a personal experiences because I spent my childhood in a small village, and my parents and my family, it's a peasant family. We had 2 cattle, 2 cows, and 1 bull generally. And I am afraid, it's possible I told you, I am afraid from the bulls, but I have a great friendship with the cows. My mother afraid because I discussed quite a long time with the cows because I told this story. We are over. Okay. But turn back to the story. Why so important? Why knew everybody about the proposition of the glacier? Because woke up with a huge herd, more hundred cattle, cows, up to the mountain, necessary to solve the problem of drinking. More thousand liters. Therefore, a shepherd found the tongue of glacier when the glacier ice melted and made a small river and somehow formed artificial lake. Therefore, the rhythm of traveling up and down from the lake of glacier back to the stable. Therefore, around the tongue of glacier constructed stable buildings, shepherd buildings, and some summer construction buildings for the cows. And it was a tragical when the climate became colder and a glacier moved more 100 meters down, and each human construction destroyed. And the shepherd going down back to the Swiss village and complained, it's an evil glacier destroyed each of our stable and everything, it's so a bad thing. And the contemporaries clerks and contemporaries priests wrote down. Therefore, we have very precious and very punctual information about moving up, down. And the first information, the mountain people increased the size of glacier. Therefore, named this period Ice Age, because the size of glacier increased. Okay, the first almost contemporary who tried to understand the problem of overpopulation are English Reverend Thomas Robert Malthus. A little bit same situation happened in the 18th century when he lived. The population of Europe increased. Therefore, try to understand which is the reason of population growth and which is the reason stop of population growing. And he tried to describe this problem, tried to modelize. He was a polymath. Therefore published about article of economics, published about the biological problem, everything. This is the age of polymath. He would like to understand which is the reason of demographical changes. And he defined first time the principle of Malthus. The first one, population growth is exponential. How we can understand exponential population growth? Look at, for example, for one family, necessary one wife and his husband. Wife and his husband. Okay, the critical from the offspring, number of offspring, the age of fertility. Age of fertility. The period of fertility, in the case of women, start around 14 years old. It's quite early from the modern point of view. But look at the play of Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. How old? Juliet? 14. 14 years old. This is the typical starting date for marriage. And which is the closing date, statistical closing date, is 40 years old. After 40 years old, it's possible birth, but generally this is a statistical simplification. According to statistical approach of fertility, necessary born every second year. Between 14 and 40, there are 26. If we are calculated 26 and simplified somehow, it's not 13, but 12 birth which possible. But the rate of mortality on the time very high. For one adult necessary to birth. More, a little bit more than 50% of infantile mortality. Therefore, the potential fertility, the potential productivity one couple, 6 children. 6 children. If we are calculate according to this model, each generation able to triple the population. Able. Okay, this is the population growth exponential nature. Later we will return to this problem. But growth of agrarian production, arithmetical. 10% up, 10% down. Therefore, the limit of adaptation, it's very, very moderate. The highest speed of mortality in traditional condition, it's a triple. Therefore, conclusion of Thomas Robert Malthus, it's necessary to activate breaks, epidemics, wars, and famines, down a level of population growth. But the modern social history and the economic history found other solution, other conclusion for the subsistence crisis. The first one, a Malthusian crisis description, like Malthus defined, but a little bit more sophisticated. For limited times, I don't want to speak more about the Malthusian model. But look at two other. The second theory, which tried to describe and understand why and which happened on the case of subsistence crisis, derive back the crisis changing the balance between population and the structure of land ownership. What mean this unbalanced situation? If we are looking, for example, there is a couple. After the death of parents in Europe, introduced 2 heritage systems. The first one, primogeniture. You know which is the primogeniture. The oldest son receives everything, which produce useless people. Any other son of family, no, nothing. For example, in Europe, this was one of the most important motivation for crusade. It's riding to the Holy Land and swording and fighting with the Muslim people and occupied and conquering new area. The useless part of nobility tried to conquering new estates for them. Why? Because primogeniture closed out from the ownership. It's made a crisis. Other heritage system, the parallel heritage system, mean every member of family received the small and same parcel from the estate. But generation by generation, in consequence of overpopulation, form dwarf estate, small, tiny estate, not enough for survival of family. Therefore, even the heritage system able to produce subsistence and survival crisis. Look at, for example, history of Sicily. Its parcel heritage system destroyed economy of Sicily. Okay, the third conclusion and the third theory about the subsistence crisis are problem in complex relation between population, agrarian production and the market. In Europe, before the modern time, no communication system for information, for example, in which area there is a shortage and which area there are surplus. Therefore, might happen some village, the people died for famine and the shortage, other village, the surplus of cereals ate by pigs and the animals. No information and no devices for transport one place to other. Not by chance, the first journal which published in Europe, no literature or history or art, but economic journal. Economic journal, it's a journal of Fugger. Fugger, it's a merchant house, it's German merchant house, is located in Augsburg, southern Germany, which was the material of the Fugger Sytem, price of different products in different area of Europe. Like Financial Times recently in New York. Economic information, the first journal, proliferation in economic information for trader, businessman, and merchant. First. Secondly, in the continent, the problem of transport solved by construction of railway network. Before railway network in Europe, great quantity of meals and the foods not possible transport to great distance. Not by chance, if we are looking the most important cities of traditional Europe located on the river side, like Buda and Pest, the Hungarian capital, like Paris on the river side of Seine, like London on the ocean and the seaside and the side of the Thames, or a lake side like Stockholm, capital of Sweden, on the Mälaren Lake, because only cheap trade possible on maritime or river-based trade via river-based trading devices. Good. Therefore, if we try to understand the nature of crisis, necessary to use no one reason description, but more moving and driving forces necessary to take into consideration. But look at the crisis of 14th century. Okay, okay, Black Death. Black Death. Its name. It was a great plague. Great plague. The great epidemics. Proliferate basically free form of infection. Virus, bacteria, and fungi. My question, a plague infection based which infector? Bacteria, virus, or fungi? I guess. So, sorry, necessary to drink a little bit because my mouth is... Okay? Bacteria, yeah. How you can kill a bacteria? For example, on the corner you met with bacteria, how you can kill? Burn. Increase the speed, heat the body, it's destroy the bacterial infection. For example, fever, a natural reaction of the body. For virus, it's not function so well. But in bacteria, very easy. For example, in Hungary, on the 19th century, used the heating of body. Take the infected people into the oven. Sometimes didn't survive, but this is the problem of experiment. Early phase of experiment, it's not so easy to survive. Okay, bacteria, it's sensible for change of temperature. But the contemporaries on the 14th century didn't know. Look at the Black Death. There are two kinds of the plague. There is a bubonic plague. It's infected by blood. It's, how the name is, which kind of basically the blooding circulation proliferate and infect the body. And there is a lung plague, which like any kind of for example, how the name is, it's a small infected element of the sorry, how infected we are recently a period of infection, not the COVID-19, but which is the epidemics recently, during the winter time and early spring. Flu. Yeah, sorry, but quite late. A flu infection, like mouth by mouth, it's a air-based infection. But if we are looking a plague infection via blood infection, it's the contemporary in the Middle Ages. 90% of plague is a bubonic plague via blood infection, and only 10% is a lung plague. Good. Some historical and contemporary picture about the bubonic plague. This is the phase and the picture and the map of infection. You can derive that the infection came from the direction of Mediterranean Sea and developed northward. And some contemporary picture, this one not so good quality, it's a bubonic plague. On the body appear barbs. This was infected on the barb of neck and the barb under the shoulder. This was the indicator of plague. Very interesting, the trajectory of infection. The contemporaries agreed that the most important infector of the epidemics were rats, black and gray rats, but it's not true. The most important vectors, as I name in medical sciences, are fleas. Somebody had a fleas? No flea owner except me. During my childhood, I was sure that a normal hygiene is a part of fleas. But it depends on the number. If somebody is very clean, only 5, 10 fleas, it's very dirty, it's more than 10. I slept together with my cat, even recently I'm sleeping with my cat, but during my childhood, I slept with my cat. She was a free spirit, therefore wandering everywhere on the village, and I had at least 5 or 10 fleas. There is a special knowledge of flea hunting. Somebody had the knowledge about the flea hunting? Nobody. Urban people. Everybody is urban people. In the villages was a normal knowledge because a flea is like a human, because eating and drinking a blood. And very, very quick, moving of flea, it's very quick. Therefore, the first of all, this is a public service, first of all, necessary a flea slow down, because it's jumps very quickly. Therefore, the first operation of the flea hunting, spitting into the hand. And you feel the trajectory of flea up. And it's cleaning, which is the name? It's a water of mouth. Okay? Taking on the skin. Very high the sugar content of this material, and slow down moving of flea. Therefore, you have a chance for picking the flea. My friend from urban area who visited in the building of my parents, this was the final phase which were able to produce. Picking the flea, but necessary turning to the nail and kill. This is the full operation. It's possible on your life later, you will meet with the fleas, remember these knowledges, spitting down on the nail. Okay. It's usable information, very important university education. You are receiving artificial information, a lot of concept, idea, theory. It's usable information. You will met with flea, able to kill. Okay, but necessary practice. One of my relatives of my mother was able to killing fleas even during the sleeping. I told you not? Yes. Okay, you know this story. Good. But which is the mechanism of proliferation? Because some area, two area on the earth in East Africa, eastern part of Africa, and outskirts of Himalaya, living rodents like for example, a rat or mouse, but between the rat and mouse, rodents, which bearer of bacteria, but didn't and don't develop the epidemics inside of the body. Why? Because there is some immunity. For example, if a medical scientist would like to make remedies for this infection using this natural immunity. If you are, for example, watching Hollywood movies, this is the first operation, finding the bearer animals who are a bearer and is a natural immunity. But how able, it's living these rodents in eastern part of Africa and the outskirts of Himalaya, no problem. But for global infection or pandemism, not local infection, pandemism, which reach more civilization and the more continent, there is a triggering effect. You know which is the trigger? On the shotgun. If something happens, you're pushing the trigger, it's launched some interaction you are not able to stop. Even closing the shotgun, the bullet is out. It's make a hole on your hand. It's no possible to triggering effect happen, not able to stop close down this chain of interaction. Which is the triggering effect? The triggering effect are drought, a dry period. It's a drought. On the drought, everything destroyed. Destroy the plants, destroy the vegetation, destroy the prey animals, and destroy the predators. Everything. But each dry period, each drought close after some term, some period. And start recovery. Which is the speed of recovery? The first one, vegetation. The second one, recovery of prey animals, like rodents. Which is the rhythm of recovery in the case of rodents? 3 weeks. From the larva to offspring. 3 weeks, no more. Which is the recovery period of predators, birds and mammals, more months, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Therefore, the prey animals, the bearer of the bacteria, overpopulate and left the homeland. And they met with rats, which are living, the living area overlapping with humans. Therefore, the triggering effect each case is a drought period. The prey animals, a bearer of bacteria, left the homeland, met with other rats, which are living together with the human settlements, and in fact, the fleas are rats, the fleas transport to human settlements, and bam, it's a breakup. Okay, which is the mechanism of infection? It's first step, flea drinks a rat blood and carries bacteria. Bacteria multiply in flea's gut, but never arrive to the stomach. Why? Because one of the most important symptoms of plague infection are blood circulation, it's frozen over. Not by chance, the first symptom on the peripheral part of the blood circulation, it's frozen down. It's frozen down. shut down the blood circulation throughout on the finger and the feet. Okay? Bacteria multiply, gut clogged with bacteria, and the flea bites human regurgitated blood into open wound. Why? Because it's possible you don't know so deeply the life of the fleas. But the flea, like the animal, it's a symbiosis there are. And are a lot of different fleas. A cat flea, a pig flea, a cattle flea, and a human flea. Why? Because the surface of skin basically different. But in this situation, when a flea bites a body of animals, of humans, drinking the blood, but the blood never arrived to the stomach, became nervous, and jump and bite everybody on the circle, closed circle. This is the mechanism of infection. Of course, the highest proportion of infection on the long distance trade are bubonic plague arrived to Europe via the Great Silk Road. Not only into direction of Europe, but infected in China. In China, approximately 30 million people died on the same wave of bubonic infection. But other direction into Europe travel by caravans of the Great Silk Road, and we have exact information about the place when the first European infected by plague. It happened in the Crimean Peninsula on the Black Sea. It's on the Crimean Peninsula located one of the most famous Genoese trading port named Kaffa, recently named Feodosia, and the Greek name was Feodosia, recently under Russian Federation, and took under siege one Central Asian army. And this Central Asian army wasn't able conquering the port, it's very rich Genoese trading ports, therefore used a biological weapon. The people, the warriors who died in the plague, taken into catapults and thrown in to the city. And the Genoese warriors didn't burn the body, but picked and tumbled in. And the fleas jumped to the body, no any idea the mechanism of infection, and the Genoese merchant, it's transported to Europe. And Europe in that time, you remember Little Ice Age, decreased the agrarian productivity, therefore majority of European population under feeding conditions, and no remedies, no solution, medical solution for this problem, underfeeding, immunity of Europeans generally, it's a very bad condition, and explosion. The population of Europe estimated to 90 million, and between 1346 and 52, 6 or 7 years, long period, 30 million Europeans died. Each third European died. No deeper disaster which happened in Europe in the history of European population. 1/3 of European population disappeared only for 7 years. Everybody agreed this is the time of final judge. This is the time of final judge. Look at the reaction of contemporaries. We will continue in the next week, but look at our first short view about the reaction. Everybody agreed this is the punishment of God. Why? evilness of human. And the logical reaction for the contemporary paradigm, creation of scapegoat. You know which is the scapegoating? There is a folkloric custom which described in a lot of community. It's a projection of sin of community to black goat. It's a folkloric version. And killing of black goat, somehow cancelling of skin. But unfortunately, in European and the global culture, no animals used as a scapegoat, but humans. Who are the most popular humans? The first one, aliens. Not aliens from the space, local aliens. Jews, Muslims, Armenians. Who are responsible for punishment? And which is the solution, you know? Other one, women. This was the first great period of witch hunting. Quite a high number of women killed in this period, more 10,000 women. Survival rate in the projection of Inquisition, it's quite moderate. And finally, had a quite populous community, a flagellant. 1 million member had a flagellant brotherhood. A flagellants declared, we are responsible, we are a sin people. And the contemporary power hated, because a flagellant who declared not the aliens, not the Jews, not the women responsible, we are responsible for the final judgment, agree, the history of human, it's closed. And we'll start empire of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ personally will return. Why hated the rulers? Because the flagellant didn't pay the tax and the fees. Nothing. And the pyramid of feudal world, without taxes and fees, not able to function. And the group of flagellant massacred and killed. It was one of the darkest chapters of history of Middle Ages. Okay, thanks a lot for your attention, and I ask you patience. I try to read a list of participants. Sorry for my tragic pronunciation.